Lu Sheng couldn't help but remark that the universe was truly vast, saying there were all kinds of people out there. Still, he had to admit, hearing someone getting transmigrated just like he did was truly a shocker. But if the rumors about Qian Yushu were true, though, he couldn't help but wonder where that person had come from. So he told Far to keep a closer eye on the dude. Of course, even without the reminder, Far would have done that anyway. Far admitted that plenty of others were also curious. The person was just too mysterious, and even the higher-ups had started to take notice. If the guy hadn't stepped out to join the tournament this time, no one might have figured out what he was up to. Lu Sheng guessed that since the guy decided to attend the competition, he was probably after the juicy rewards. That meant, compared to him, the guy's resources might not be all that abundant. Suddenly, a soft light shimmered across his chest before floating into the air. Lu Sheng blinked in surprise, seeing that it was his identity card being generated. Around him, the same thing happened to others. Far noted that it meant the semifinals drawing had begun. Turning around, Lu Sheng saw beams of light everywhere, so those must all be contestants. His identity card displayed his basic info, and soon after, he was instructed to head to a specific arena. Far quickly pulled up the arena number and gasped when he saw the list of competitors. There were 3 11th levels in Lu Sheng's group. He remarked that it could be trouble and asked if Lu Sheng wanted to check their profiles. Lu Sheng, however, stayed calm and politely declined. Far then urged him to wear the combat glasses, saying they'd surely help. But Lu Sheng just shook his head again, and in the next moment, he vanished right before Far's eyes, which startled the guy. Far sighed, muttering that 3 11th level sounded suspicious. He began to suspect something shady was happening, maybe even that Lu Sheng had been deliberately targeted. Moments later, the contestants were teleported to the arena, and among them was none other than our boy. The host was ecstatic, announcing that the first round of the semi-finals was about to begin. All the top seeds from the 12 star sectors are also making their arrival. He hyped up the crowd, asking who they were rooting for, and the audience roared, shouting their favorites. Then, the host highlighted the name everyone had been talking about, the first immortal-level prodigy in a million years across the 12 star sectors. Of course, he was talking about Lu Sheng, but our guy didn't even flinch. Hands in his pockets, he stood there with effortless confidence. The cameraman caught the perfect shot of his cool expression, which made the family watching jump with excitement. Meanwhile, Lan Chen sprang to his feet, recognizing him instantly as Lu Sheng. The chief executor and the senator nearby, however, looked a bit concerned, and somewhere else, a figure whose face couldn't be seen watched with growing interest. Under countless gazes, the contestants on stage couldn't help but turn their attention toward Lu Sheng as well. Each had their own thoughts. Some were thrilled, others surprised. One of them admitted that when he first saw the lineup, he assumed it was just someone with the same name. But now, realizing it was really the dude, he's genuinely shocked. One girl sighed helplessly, thinking how unlucky it was to meet him right at the start. The rest simply stared, showing all sorts of emotions. Lu Sheng showed a faint smile, though he couldn't help but think he had suddenly become everyone's target. Meanwhile, the host, whose hair color somehow turned red, kept hyping up the crowd. He remarked how everyone must be curious about what kind of incredible power an immortal-level being possesses. Then, he began introducing the other contestants, noting the 3 11th level and 6 elite 10th level. With all his yapping, it became blindingly obvious that the host practically pushed Lu Sheng to the opposite side of all 9 others. Many contestants were already cracking their knuckles, and it was certain who their first target would be. Up in the stands, Far cursed under his breath, furious at the host, and calls him a bastard. He wondered where they even found such a clown, saying this setup was pure sabotage. The rules for this round were simple. 10 enter, 1 leaves. It was a chaotic free-for-all, with no fixed opponents. Attack anyone, however you like. But now, thanks to that announcement, everyone's focus had turned to Lu Sheng. Far knew this was bad. Even if Lu Sheng somehow won, it would likely end up in a costly victory, and then the glory of the so-called immortal level would be dimmed in front of such an audience. Meanwhile, our boy's family saw it too, though apart from those who truly cared about him, no one else seemed to mind. To most, even if Lu Sheng had to fight 1 against 100, it was just more entertainment. The atmosphere had hit its peak, and the crowd was roaring, wild like horny animals. Far could almost feel their bloodlust from his seat. He did not doubt for a second that some were secretly hoping to see Lu Sheng bleed. Down on the field, the other contestants were no fools either. One of them quietly noted that the crowd seemed to want them all to gang up on Lu Sheng. That being said, he didn't seem to care. The two other 11th levels were curious too, wondering how strong an immortal level was, really. A burst of energy flared from the girl's body, her eyes turning a sharp emerald green. She'd heard stories of extraordinary life forms able to slaughter higher levels effortlessly, and she wonders if an immortal could truly live up to its name while licking her lips, looking all excited. Meanwhile, another guy tensed up, gathering power, saying that with 3 11th level and 6 10th level, it is not exactly unfair. The giant among them drew his massive sword and slammed it into the ground, energy crackling around him as he growled to all to attack together. The others agreed, and everyone was getting prepared. One of them even blamed Lu Sheng for daring to stand out and said he deserved it. Feeling the hostility, our guy actually laughed. Then he murmured under his breath, almost amused, "So, everyone wants to test an immortal?" And with that, he stepped forward calmly. In the next scene, a violent surge of energy exploded from him, rippling through the air like a storm. Honestly, I almost thought his hair would turn blonde all of a sudden. Anyway, Lu Sheng decided to grant their wish. The shockwave that followed made the entire arena tremble. Gasps filled the stands as spectators' combat goggles shattered one after another. Even those with a limit of 1 million couldn't handle it. At the same time, the weaker ones were blown right off their seats. Back on the field, Lu Sheng lifted his foot and stomped down hard. The impact rolled outward like a tidal wave, instantly sending everyone flying. Several coughed up blood midair while the giant clutched his chest, trembling in disbelief, saying they hadn't even got close to him and they'd already lost. The host stood frozen, staring at the wrecked arena, saying how Lu Sheng had cleared the stage with just one move. Then he stopped speaking altogether when Lu Sheng slowly raised a single finger. With a calm expression, Lu Sheng stated that this might be their only chance in life to defeat him, so they'd better give it everything they had. After saying that, Lu Sheng turned and walked away. For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then the crowd erupted in disbelief. Even the host hadn't expected such a scene. He could only sigh, murmuring that this was what immortal truly meant. The chief executor remarked that the immortal bloodline embodied a king's presence, and Lu Sheng clearly fit that image perfectly. But no one was more stunned than Far. All his earlier worries suddenly felt ridiculous. Every pair of eyes followed Lu Sheng as he walked off, his dominance, power, and sheer force of will perfectly capturing everyone's imagination of what an immortal should be. Lu Qing cheered with pure excitement, while their parents finally understood how far their son had come. Behind them, the martial saints stood frozen, mouths wide open. Lin Zhengyue, once she regained her composure, admitted that even among the universe, Lord Lu still shone the brightest. Snowy, meanwhile, finally exhaled and whispered softly, saying, "Thank goodness." It was then that everyone realized what it truly meant to defy the ordinary, to rewrite what was possible. Perhaps they were witnessing history itself. Meanwhile, one of the defeated fighters struggled to his feet, staring after Lu Sheng's fading figure. His voice trembled as he asked whether they had really lost without even having the right to make a single move. Meanwhile, the other guy broke down in tears, despairing that they couldn't even stand before someone who had just reached 10th level. The host, after being stunned for a few seconds, quickly pulled himself together and did his job. He loudly declared Lu Sheng as the victor of the match. Then the broadcast cut to another arena. The entire field was frozen over, and behind Monroe stood a colossal ice sculpture. With a snap of his fingers, the ice shattered into countless shards, releasing a powerful shockwave that tore through the stage. The referee paused for a second before announcing, "From the Hillstar sector, Monroe wins." Monroe turned his head slightly with a smirk and said that he can't wait to face Lu Sheng. Meanwhile, in another arena, a woman wielding a giant sword slashed forward, declaring that she would personally challenge the immortal to sharpen her own glory. Back at our boy's side, the following matches were all the same. No one could withstand even a casual strike from him. Each battle ended almost effortlessly, and 2 more wins added to his name without breaking a sweat. The only thing that truly tested his patience was the host, who seemed to have made it his personal mission to focus on him non-stop. Lu Sheng had to hold himself back from punching the guy mid-broadcast. As for Far, he was beyond words. To him, these 3 matches weren't just victories, they were complete, unstoppable sweeps. There were now just over 40 contestants left, and every single one of them was at least 11th level or higher. Among them, Lu Sheng is the lowest level, but even so, the power of an immortal was far beyond anything he'd imagined. Meanwhile, the chief executor had already received the latest reports. Lu Sheng's victories had earned him universal recognition, and predictions now placed him as the top favorite to win, surpassing even Monroe. The senator, deep in thought, remarked that the next stage would be one-on-one battles, where only the brightest of the younger generation remained. Back on Lu Sheng's side, his identity card flickered and updated, showing his next opponent. He raised an eyebrow, seeing it was Bing Long. The host, ever eager to stir up excitement, shouted that the fourth round's opening match would be a battle between the Yamu's prodigies. The crowd went wild at the announcement, cheering as the two stepped onto the stage. Bing Long, her expression cold as ever, declared that this time, Lu Sheng had no excuse to avoid her. Lu Sheng, however, asked if keeping up that act didn't tire her out. Bing Long froze for a second, clearly wasn't expecting this. Lu Sheng added that deep down, she was terrified, but still pretending to look eager for the fight. "Lying to yourself like that," he remarked. "Doesn't it bother you?" Her body tensed, and her expression stiffened for a heartbeat before twisting into a smirk. She laughed, claiming she was only worried he couldn't withstand her attacks and would end up embarrassing himself in front of his family. Lu Sheng didn't bother replying. From his perspective, her acting was terrible, and whether she was afraid or not, only she truly knew. In the next scene, Bing Long charged forward, shouting that she had never feared him and had long awaited this fight. With that, she unleashed everything she had. Countless blades filled the air as she raised her sword and swung down with all her might. Lu Sheng simply stood there, watching. The moment the blades descended, Bing Long couldn't even see how he moved. All she heard was the sound of steel shattering. Her eyes widened as her own weapon snapped in two, broken effortlessly between Lu Sheng's fingers. She stared, stunned, as Lu Sheng's fist came forward. The energy around it shimmered in golden energy, and for the first time, she was scared for her life. She cried out that she surrendered, but it was already too late. When she opened her eyes again, she felt a light tap on her shoulder. Lu Sheng leaned in close, his voice low enough for only her to hear. He tells her that next time she tries to hang on, she should keep better control of her leg muscles and heartbeat. And about that dinner she treated his family to. Consider this returning the favor. Before she could respond, her knees gave out and she sank to the floor. As she turned to look at him, something about him seemed to be a little different in her eyes.